So we're talking about the power of pause and play. Now, where there's stress, where there's anxiety, when we pause, we know that we can lead better after we've had a bit of a rest. And for kids, they have better behaviour after they've had a play. Because when they play, they're able to work in that moment. And if our kids aren't playing really well, we've got a danger of our future workforce actually being really lazy, really introvert, really disconnected, unable to do the key things that our society needs. So when we think of play and we think of it that it's a work ethics for our kids and it's an enjoyable space that helps modify behaviour, what are some of the key play things that you promote for families or that you've done with your little ones?
Role play with the children, like doctor's kits, things like that, just so they can understand that the bigger world, like this is what you can grow up to be. Or like playing through books is another good one, like phonics books, introducing those at a young age, just like letters and sounds with children, and like social games with your child I think are beneficial. You build up a social bond there, and that bond carries on through coming through education because they're confident to interact with grown-ups, and then they gain the confidence to interact with other children around them. I think it's really important.
How many minutes would you suggest for families to encourage?
Within the earlier settings, I think it's paramount. Play is a massive thing, because play can be a massive section, like sensory experiences. You can get so many of them from play. Play is very educational. Like another side for communication play, I think it's really important that they do play rather than just sitting down on technology. I think it's important to understand that play is a massive factor for them to be children at the end of the day as well. Like, it's a privilege to be able to play, really. I think it's really beneficial.
And do you see some kids after they've had a good play that they change in their persona for the rest of the day? If they've got maybe some anxiety or some stroppiness or tiredness out of their system.
Yeah, so we use, like, play can be used as like an intervention, and you can do it as a focus. Like, if you see a struggle, you can base the play around that struggle, and it helps children just to talk about what their anxiety may be. And it's like once they've got that off their chest, they're ready to come back then, and you understand how they're feeling within that moment.
I think a lot of play can, as you were saying, come from books and come from reading. And so things like if you've read a book, then actually recreating it with Small World, or recreating it through your role play and having, you know, maybe the characters from the books to actually practice the language that they've had, and in a really informal way where they're sort of leading it and they're choosing. And I know that that's something that my child particularly really enjoys to do, and then they'll sort of like role play it as well, because obviously whole body is really important with children. So not just the Small World, but actually completely recreate it, and they have me being all sorts of characters and things and all sorts of things all the time. But I think that's really important, because it's important for that imagination, but also the vocabulary as well, but also just the space to be something else and to see who you are through play as well. I think it's important.
Absolutely.
I'm often asked about play when it comes to children with additional needs, because play doesn't look as traditional as what we've just described, which is really important play. And sometimes it's about defining what play is. And when we observe a child with additional needs, their play may be slightly more repetitive, it may look really rigid, it may be that it's not as explorative as others, but it's actually still a learning space, and it's a regulation space. And if we really define what play is, it is actually about self-regulation, it's about exploration, it's about connecting with the world.
Great.
And actually children with needs connect with the world slightly differently, and so their play may appear slightly differently. And I think we just have to define play to the individual and let the individual explore with what play means. And I think as we get older, we should still try and play, because I think it does kind of get reduced as we get a bit older. But we can kind of create our play. For some of us it is reading a book, some of us it's about going out for a meal with our friends, some of us it's solitary, you know, experiences. And so we have to allow children to define play as well, while creating the experiences that you've just expressed as well. But I think it's about understanding that play is about learning self-regulation and connecting to oneself and the world if possible, and allowing people to do that.